This is the BYD Dolphin, which will soon be available from €25,570 plus delivery, but this version is closer to just over €31,000 because it's a design. The big question is, though, will BYD drop prices even further with the likes of Volkswagen having recently announced price cuts? Some other bits of information that might be relevant to you. So BYD use cobalt-free battery chemistry. Blade batteries is what they call them. All models of the car will come with a heat pump as standard, which preserves your range when it's really cold. Now, some would argue you don't really need that setup in Ireland, but they're throwing it in. They are the third most valuable car brand in the world, so they're not going anywhere. They've been around for about 30 years. Lots of smartphones, solar panels have BYD batteries contained in them. BYD reckon they're going to aim the Dolphin at first-time buyer EVs. Just some other top-line stuff for you. 8 years or 200,000 kilometers on the battery. The boot is 345 litres. And for now, two battery options, 44.9 and 60 kilowatt-hour batteries. And they've tested those batteries between 3,000 and 5,000 charging cycles, which is the equivalent of about 1 million kilometers. I'm going to start off with the inside of the car, show you some tips and tricks of how I've found it after living with it for a week. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this fan down because it's quite loud. It really is loud. So it's in auto, it's on 25 degrees. And that's something else that has kind of plagued me this week because I just found 22 just wasn't warm enough. Now, I'm not one of these creatures that's always cold or anything like that. You know, forget the lagging jacket here. But it's a very, very intrusive cabin when that heater is going, not even a full blast, just kind of medium. There's even an option on it that asks if you want to reduce the fan speed if you get a phone call. So clearly they know. Something else that might be a little bit weird for people to get their head around, this rotating shifter reverses that way and drives that way, which is kind of counterintuitive perhaps. Even if you go and have a look at James May's Twitter account, he's driving a Dolphin this week as well and said the same thing. These shortcut buttons are always there, including the access to your auto button, your main demister for the windscreen, bringing you to your regen mode, which is here, and traction and the mode of eco and normal and sport also here. Depending on the model you get, you've got wireless charging. There's good space down below for keeping things tight and rattle free. More storage down here with a little cover, and you have two drinks holders. The floating shelf here for items is also very useful. I think it's strange that you can't, unless you have the BYD app. Now you can, using the key, if you're within reach of the car, hold the button down and it will preheat the cabin. But there's no actual timer for preheating the cabin, which I just think is very strange. So if you go into smart charging, you can time when the charging will happen if you have a night race, but you can't set up a departure time in the car, which is really very odd, I think. It'll do 88 kilowatt charging speed. It has an 11 kilowatt charger on board. However, I only managed to see it do about 9 kilowatts on an 22 kilowatt charger. I didn't actually manage to get the car to fast charge. Not the car's fault, ESB's charger's fault, so just gave up on that. So I can't verify if close to the 88 kilowatt charging speed is actually achievable. Maybe we'll get another Dolphin to have a look at that. And yes, for those of you asking about the seal, I will have it on the channel very, very soon. Just everyone calm down. We'll get to it. Yeah, the screen rotates. I'm sure you're well aware of that by now. I find the cruise control really easy to use. It's just like 2 clicks, set, and the speed. Other people take note. Efficiency, 15.3 kilowatt hours, even in cold. On motorway speeds, yes, it's about 18. Still very good by anybody's standards. I don't really have any complaints there at all. A little tip for you on your aircon, just make sure in the AC settings it's on comfort mode, not economical mode, because it just doesn't really feel very warm if you do that. Another trip on the ADAS safety assist The main issue I have, not really the frontal driving monitor thing, that's okay, I've left that on all week, but you will want to turn off the traffic sign recognition as soon as you get into the car, because every time you go 1 kilometre over the speed limit, it will beep at you. And if you go down below it and you go over it again, it will beep at you. So it's very, very annoying. Watch out for that. Space in the back's pretty good. Space in the boot, not so good. I do love that they have a little extra area down below for Type 2 cables and things. However, so, you know, it's not the biggest car in the world, but it will very comfortably fit 4 people. If you're a family of 4 and you don't often use the boot, then actually the Dolphin could work for you. There's lots of things going on here. You've got the BYD Assistant that will actually allow you to set up voice skills, so you can tell it to take you to work, and it just, you know, does it. Hey BYD. There's your assistant called Jack. BYD, take me to Connolly Station.
Say that again?
Take me to Connolly train station.
Which of these places do you want?
So it's actually predicting Connolly, C-O-N-L-E-Y, and it's optioning...
I didn't get that. Can you say the list once more? Which list number do you want?
Cancel.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Cancel. So I brought up Scaries and Lusk and a few others. Now, look, it will, if it's a voice skill based system, it will learn your voice and different commands as time goes. Another brilliant feature, if you're in nav and you want to know, can this car bring me to X? You simply tap the button below the petrol looking pump, hit the electricity symbol or lightning symbol, and it will give you a map based on your state of charge. So just the outer fringes of kind of Sligo and Galway and a bit of Kerry I can't reach with a 98% state of charge, 421 kilometers. But it is showing you a huge chunk of Ireland of where you can reach, and obviously that will get smaller and smaller as your range depletes, but it always gives you a fairly rough guide as to how far you can currently go with the amount of charge you have in the battery. That is a brilliant feature. It's not even on the Atto 3. This is a front wheel drive. This version 204 brake horsepower. It never truly feels like 204 brake horsepower. It's not particularly cold and the wheels are still spinning when you floor it. It definitely struggles a bit of the time to get the power down. There's also a lot of noise around the front of the car at motorway speeds, so be prepared for that. It just doesn't feel massively insulated or something. The steering is light though. It's a good city car set up for that style of driving. Very light, very nimble. I loved driving this in many ways because it fits into spaces. You can squeeze past other cars and not giving you this disapproval look as you go by. But the wind noise, even at 65 kilometers an hour, it's evident. Yeah, the climate's been a real strange one for me. I've really struggled to get that to a satisfactory temperature. Even at it's 25, okay, it's warm. I'll knock it down to 23. But the fan is still very, very loud. The noise of that truck going by is very, very loud. A couple of levels of regen. They won't work if you've got loads and loads of battery charged into the car. I'm on 97% now, but there is a little lightning symbol here on the shortcut buttons. You tap that and you'll have more. It's never a one pedal driving type of car. Really is nippy though, and while it never feels particularly fast, there's plenty of electric torque to keep you happy. Actually, while I'm waiting here at the lights, it has wireless charging, great, but if you use the cable, it is phenomenally quick. So there's 2 USB-C charging ports down here. It also takes a micro SD. But if you use the cable to charge your device, properly fast. Very, very impressive. The amount of people, like there's a cement mixer gone through a red light that was red for him at least 2 seconds. It's such a problem driving around Dublin in particular, and it's a new enough phenomenon. It's the last sort of year, 6 months, people they're going through red lights when they've well, you're not meant to go through them at all, but when they've been properly read. Like he's driving a cement mixer. How heavy is that? Anyway. While things are probably a little bit noisy from the outside world, and you wonder then, have they saved money there? I think the interior of the car feels like they haven't. It's very well put together. There's no rattles, no squeaks. Materials are good. They feel good to the touch. All the regular things you're touching on. Yeah, it's harsher plastics on some of the doors, but even the high gloss plastics, they still look very well. So I really don't have an awful lot to complain about it in this car. It's just a little bit quirky with the things I've mentioned. But if you're after an affordable EV, you got to take the boot into account, definitely. But as an A to B car, if you don't want anything too fancy, I recently spoke to somebody quite well known in Ireland. I'll save their name and details for the book. But this person is, earns a very, very good salary. And they rang me because they were torn between a Kia Niro or an Atto 3. And they said, look, I could, relatively speaking, buy whatever car I want, but I don't see the point. I just want to go electric. I want something that looks all right and will do the job. And they're the people. It's like when you started to see Audis and BMWs, Mercedes in Aldi and Lidl car parks. Just because you have it doesn't mean you might want to spend it. And I'd be interested to see who exactly ends up buying BYDs. Because you've got people dropping down from i4, M50s, people, heavy enough metal. And you can see it on forums and car enthusiast forums, people buying the Seal in particular, the all-wheel drive, purely because you're getting a car with 500 odd brake horsepower for barely 50 grand. So it's not even a snobby thing. I think people that either, well, with the Seal, they do like cars. With the Dolphin, might want to go electric, but don't want to spend 40 grand. They're like, oh, this will do. Thanks very much. So I think we'll see a lot more of these cars in 2024. Look out for taxis driving Atto 3s. And that's the litmus test for me. Whenever you see taxi drivers driving a car, that usually says it's pretty decent.